Welcome to Pharmaceutical Executives podcast series, Managing in the Era of Lean, featuring winners of the 2011 Emerging Leadership Awards, brought to you by Cegedim Relationship Management, the life sciences industry's leading provider of CRM, marketing, regulatory compliance, and data management solutions. For more information, please visit them on the web at www.cegedim.com.
Hello and welcome. I'm Jennifer Ringler, Associate Editor of Pharmaceutical Executive Magazine, and I'm pleased to moderate this podcast, which is one in a series of our 2011 Emerging Pharma Leaders podcasts, which focuses this year on leadership in a lean market. This describes the organizational imperative in most big pharma and biotech firms today to find new and better ways to leverage resources of both human and financial capital to achieve a competitive advantage in an increasingly crowded market for medicines. It is also driven by the consolidation of payer strength in driving pricing and reimbursement decisions, which threatens to lower industry margins unless there is a significant gain in the efficient development of company assets. Hence, lean management is actually a driver of innovation, particularly on the neglected side of business processes as opposed to products. To speak on these topics today, I'd like to welcome David Stern, Executive Vice President of Endocrinology at EMD Serono. Welcome, David.
My pleasure. Thanks, Jennifer.
I'd like to begin by asking you, as a leader, what can you do to motivate staff in an environment that's increasingly focused on doing more with less?
Jennifer, I think one of the things that's really exciting about doing more with less is that people get a broader depth of knowledge in subjects. And it's a good opportunity for people to grow and develop and for us to be able to give more responsibility to our staff. One of the things that I think is important in the dynamics of the market today is that you have to try new things. And that's what makes things exciting, is being able to try new things, utilize technology. One of the most, I think, difficult things for a junior marketer or somebody in a pharmaceutical company is doing the same thing over and over and doing the same thing year in, year out. And that's not really exciting. I know in interviewing product management, sometimes people say, yeah, my budget is $5-6 million, but all I have to do is put together sales material for our managed care coverage, or all I do is speaker programs. And if that individual spends all their time doing that, that's not very exciting for them. So I think being able to do more with less is really about utilizing that investment differently and trying new things.
And I think part of doing more with less has often meant that pharmaceutical companies are turning towards outsourcing. So one of the things that I'm wondering is that as more functions are being outsourced, what is required to maintain the essential oversight and control? And is there a risk of the dilution of quality and integrity in the drive for increased efficiency and lower costs?
Well, I think one of the most important things is that you can't trade one for the other. You need to make sure that the quality integrity remains high. And we're in a regulated industry, so that's something that needs to be always the focus. And being able to do things more efficiently and to lower cost is important. Within the industry, the pharma industry has had very high margins as an industry for a long time. And now, because of some changes with healthcare reform, because of some changes in the environment, honestly, the blockbuster model is dead. And we need to look at how we do things differently. And sometimes that might mean outsourcing. But what's very important, though, is to maintain and outsource to get better efficiency, but to maintain the high level of quality and integrity that we've been accustomed to. Every company, can look for quick ways to cut back, but I think what's important is that we don't cut too deep. Because once you cut too deep and then there is a compromise in quality, it just comes back and hurts you in the end. So we've got to make sure that we hold the standards and keep the bar high, but also look for ways that we can be more efficient and be nimble.
And do you believe that the middle manager is an endangered species going forward in tomorrow's pharma?
I think the middle manager is, it really depends on what the job responsibilities of a middle manager are. Within EMD Serono, we're not a huge we're a very large biopharmaceutical company from a biotech perspective, but nowhere near the size organization as a large pharmaceutical. And it's still important to be able to have people manage resources and be able to manage different products, but maybe with a smaller staff, maybe having more responsibility. So I think gone are the days where you had middle managers just managing people but not doing things themselves. And I think that's true of any responsible business, is the middle managers, I don't think it's an endangered species, but I do think that part of what will be important is their ability to do work as well and to be responsible. And maybe their staffs will be a little bit smaller because they'll have a broader depth of doing different programs instead of having one person just assigned to one specific tactic. And I think that's, again, as I said before, I think that's good management, and that's what gets people excited, and how you develop your people is giving them an opportunity to be involved in many different things, whether it's strategic, whether it's message development, whether it's execution of tactics. All of that is very important. And in the old days, you maybe had one person that just focused on executing one tactic. In today's world, you need to have someone that has the breadth of being able to execute many tactics across many different channels, maybe healthcare provider, maybe managed care, maybe professional, and maybe it's one person doing all three instead of three people doing one of those each.
And what are the key elements of productive partnerships with external groups, given that lean management in practice puts companies on a more outward-looking trajectory?
What's critical, I think, is having a common objective and goals, and understanding what the company that you're working with is, what's the outcome that you desire, and what are you assessing them on. So within any partnership, it's very important to have transparent communication. It's very important to share what the objectives are and how you're going to be assessing them. And if you put that into practice, I think it makes it much easier to have a very objective way to measure things. What's important is doing this objectively and not doing it subjectively. And I think when it comes down to one example of that could be working with agencies of record, making sure that there are very clear communication points as to where the companies are interfacing and what the expectations are. I think too often, sometimes what happens is subjectivity gets involved, and if it's not clear what the objectives are, oftentimes you can make a bad business decision because of a subjective measure as opposed to looking at what the specific outcomes and measures should be and how they're being tracked.
And is your company doing enough right now to foster talent development, mentoring, and other HR functions that help to retain top performers? Where are the people planning gaps?
EMD Serono, one of our major focuses is on our people. And we have a program called the LEAD Academy. LEAD stands for Learning, Education, Advancement, and Development. And what's great about this is that we have courses given every month across an array of different areas, from a professional development standpoint, for on-the-job training, for IT support, even as far as learning a language. We're a global company. We deal with our headquarters in Geneva and Darmstadt, so we offer classes in French and German for those employees that would like it. But what's also important is that it's not just for internal employees. It's also offered to our field employees. And often, in fact, last week and this week, we have a number of our sales representatives who are in different trainings in the home office this week, developing themselves, learning new skill sets. So it's something that developing your people, especially in the new dynamic, is very important. I think it's something that people, employees are looking for today. They want to come to a company that has an investment in them, and they want to work for a company that's going to help them develop and help them become better employees. And it's really a two-way street. When you train your employees, you get a benefit as an employer, and then the employee gets a benefit because their skill sets are improved. So that's something that I think is always important, but especially in leaner times, you want people to be successful. And if you can't have as many people, or you expect people to have a broader responsibility, you also have a duty to them to be able to train them so that they're successful.
And what do you think the prevalent organizational model for Big Pharma will be in 5 years? Will it be a return to innovation and science, or a distribution platform to commercially execute the inventions of others? The
pharmaceutical industry has been probably, if not the most innovative industry in the United States. It's probably within the top 2 or 3. And that's something that really, I think, is an imperative as the industry goes forward. Biopharmaceutical innovation is critical to outcomes that U.S. citizens and citizens around the world are wanting, and that's better health. And I think as developed nations, one of the things that's important to us is being able to live better lives, to have better outcomes, and to be able to improve our quality of life. So I believe that it's critical that biopharmaceutical companies return to innovation and science. We've been built as an industry on that very strong platform of science, and one of our purposes as EMD Serono is to improve medical knowledge and further scientific research. That's what makes us different. That's where the value is for our companies. And I think in the future, we're going to see a little bit of a change in that we'll be relying on some more external partnerships. When you look at working with academia, working with other smaller biotech companies, and even working with managed care, there's a lot that we can learn together working with partners. We can work with managed care companies because they have a very broad base of patients, and utilizing the outcomes data and even structuring relationships in terms of reimbursement around outcome data is something that's very important. EMD Serono has just entered into a program with Cigna Healthcare for MS, which is an outcomes-based program to reduce remission in MS and to reduce hospitalizations. And so both companies, Cigna and EMD Serono, benefit by having a better outcome for patients. And net, it's good for Cigna because their employers pay less in terms of hospitalization costs and negative outcomes, and it's good for EMD Serono. So I think that's an example of how we need to further innovation. We need to continue to be based in scientific expertise, but also be open to working with academia, be open to working with small biotechs, and be open to working with managed care so that together all of us can improve patient outcomes.
Well, David, I just want to say thank you again for having the time to speak with us this morning and for offering your insight as one of our 2011 Emerging Pharma Leaders.
Jennifer, thanks very much. It's really an honor to be recognized by Pharmaceutical Executive, and I appreciate the recognition, and I really appreciate the Pharmaceutical Executive continues to be a voice for the industry.
Thanks very much, David.
Cegedim Relationship Management is proud to bring you the Pharmaceutical Executives podcast series, Managing in the Era of Lean, featuring the winners of the 2011 Emerging Leadership Awards. For more information, please visit them on the web at www.cegedim.com.